Interesting. So welcome to, well, almost the halfway point of the course, which I can't believe that. I was going through all this and thought, oh my God, we're already halfway through. But by the end of this week, we'll be halfway through, right? And I just think it's exciting and there's so much we've been covering. And I want to thank everybody who's been jumping on office hours, everybody who has been, watching the videos. I've been happy to see, some folks dipping in and watching the recordings, rewatching, things like that. And it's been great to have such an engaged group of people here. So I'm going to do something that I did a couple weeks ago. I had some good feedback on. I'm going to take just a moment, but I want to talk about in real time that something just happened to me because I feel like these are good life lessons along the way. I find that a lot of my internal policies, procedures, best practices, strategies are all in alignment because of things that I've been through in the past. And so bear with me, indulge me for about 60, maybe 90 seconds, but I am fresh off of a flight from Dublin. And you're probably thinking to yourself, aren't you just still sick? Yes, I am. Not contagious, still sick. Weren't you in America like 3 days ago? Yes, my trip was actually only 3 days. I only spent 2 overnights in Dublin. And now bear in mind, I'm East Coast. That looks a little different than if someone was flying out of LAX, right? And I was there for 5 seconds and I did my thing. And how do you do that? And so I want to take a moment to address this and some of the things that I have learned from doing this over the years. So as you get to a point where you may find yourself more regularly booked for speaking and frankly, sometimes overbooked in certain times a year, you're going to find that Q1 probably spilling out into April it's just a really busy time for speaking, typically because it's when a lot of the conferences are locally, domestically, internationally. A lot of Q1, early Q2 association meetings are happening. It's because for most of the US domestically, at least, it's the off season. And so you're going to find yourself where maybe you book 5 to 10 speaking engagements over the year, but like 3 of them are within 4 weeks, right? Like right now, I'm this period of time where I think over 5 weeks, I'm traveling 4 out of the 5 weeks, not full weeks, and 2 of them are international. And it's like, how do you kind of survive those sort of things? And a few things I learned along the way that I just want to impart, because here I am, fresh as a daisy, came in late yesterday. I'm back on US time immediately, which I'm going to talk about that for a second too. Went very well. I'm thrilled to share. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. I ended up with 33 out of 50 people in the room being added to my email list, which is a really strong conversion. Someone else can do the math for me. And most importantly, my health isn't worse for wear. And I think that's most important. So, when you find yourself in a bind where you've probably overbooked yourself a little bit, and it could be maybe you're booking a bunch in the conferences, but you also have big weddings, right? Because it's not just that. It's going to be things like, oh, I had to balance these weddings and these birthdays, and I just got over COVID, and 66%. Thanks, Sarah. I love it. I love that you jumped in and did it. So 66% is high for me. Usually it's 50%. So, and it was a QR code in case you're wondering. And so a few things I want to speak to very briefly. First and foremost, when you find yourself in kind of these challenging times of maybe I've overbooked myself in one way with my life and things, I always do a 30,000 view. I tend to, even though I do tend to think ahead, I do think incrementally. I get into a mindset of, okay, so this is a lot over 5 weeks. I'm going to go to Dublin for like literally 3 seconds. And then I come home and then I go to Sonoma for 6 days for B-Sage. Then I come home for a week. Then I go to Qatar, which is like a whole other, holy crap, guys. I just got an email yesterday that was 4 pages long about all the things I need to do to prepare for that trip. So you look at the lay of the land and you ask yourself immediately, this is what I do. How do you make this as easy as possible on yourself? There was something I read a long time ago. And I do say this with complete gratitude that I can do things like this. But when it comes to travel, which can take a lot out of us, I read this great article years ago, and it was like some startup CEO, like in the early years, and they were sitting, I feel like it was with the knot. Like I always feel like it's connected to the knot somehow, or maybe I saw this engaged, but this story resonates with me. And, obviously trying to save money, so on and so forth. And they sat in a crappy seat in the back. And I guess they were talking with someone ahead of time in the, near the gate. And that person bumped them up. That person went and didn't ask their permission and bumped them up to a better seat. And they're like, oh my gosh, you didn't have to do that. I'm just trying to save money. And they're like, yeah, but at some point you have to make this more convenient on you because you're the one who's making the money. You're the one doing the sales. You're the one doing all the things. And you need to take care of yourself and make sure that, you're not miserable the whole time. And you've got to be mindful of all these things. And that always, even though I can't remember the origins of it, that always resonated with me. And so looking at the 30,000 view of all the speaking coming up, I decided to have a mindset of taking it incrementally, right? And I even broke down this trip. I said, okay, you have to drive 3 hours to Dallas, up to 3 hours. Then you get a 6-hour flight. Then you got to be there and so on and so forth. So step one, sorry, it's 90 more 9 seconds. Got to have the mindset of what's going to be the best way to take this information all in and to break this down. Are you someone who has to look at all of it at once? Can you break it down? What is that going to look like? Next, for me as a speaker, it's about being very mindful of my health. I will tell you, I actually went and did an extra doctor's appointment coming from a place of gratitude that I was able to do that with my insurance to be cleared personally by a doctor to fly, because I was wheezing a little bit, just a little bit. And but I was also given antibiotics, which I started taking, which I don't do. They actually work too well with me. And so I'm not going to get into it, but like, I have to be mindful of what that's going to do to me. They also give me prednisone, which I waited to take until I got home. This is not doctor advice. I'm just telling you, I know how my body is. And so I didn't want to go through all that, but I got cleared. From there, how do you make your travel as easy as possible? I'll tell you guys right now, I have a travel credit card that allows me lounge access. That has made all the difference. When I'm international, some of them will honor those back and forth. They have showers if you're having a long, all the things. When I get booked for things, knowing I'm going into a speaking thing, typically that's paid by someone else. And I will never overindulge on that. But I do have a discretionary fund to adjust my seats so that I can work, I can relax, I can take care of myself, all those things. So I will tell you, on the way there, I paid out of pocket for an exit row. And on the way back, I didn't know you could bid for first class. I was never going to pay for first class, but I could bid on it at a much, much, much lower rate, knowing that I paid nothing for my flight. It would come out of pocket. And I did that. And that 9-hour flight flew. It allowed me to be able to drive home, spend a little bit on tolls, get there faster. And then on top of that, so it's making your life, it makes it more manageable. It's protecting yourself. It's protecting your voice. It's protecting your sleep. I will say also, and I'll keep this very short because we need to move on, is, looking at time zones ahead of time to determine how you're going to come up with a plan of action, watch some TikToks, read some things, because I knew, having flown international, not a ton, but enough, I could arrive at 5 a.m. I could request ahead of time to pay for an extra hotel room night so I could just come in instead of sitting in the lobby till 4 p.m. And then I could sleep for 5 hours, and then I could go back to bed that night with a little bit of melatonin. Again, not a doctor's, I'm not a medical advice kind of person, but doing that allowed me to be very fresh on stage. Actually, people complimented and said, "You look so fresh for someone who just showed up yesterday from America." So being mindful of the time zones, making it easier on yourself, considering budgeting or requesting. I usually request ahead of time from them. I need you to, if I'm coming in at 5 a.m., I need you to pay for the hotel room for the night before so I can go to my room, period. End of story. Has to be done. Sometimes I pay out of pocket for it, but I will not travel without that because of honoring my sleep. And then finally, knowing what your level of participation needs to be. I got with them ahead of time. They were very aware I had contracted bronchitis as a result of this COVID. They knew I wasn't contagious, which was everyone's relief. But they also knew after the talk, they knew a few things. One, they knew I was going to require a handheld mic even in a small room because I could not project the way I usually do. I know my body. I also knew afterwards they were going to go downstairs to a bar and chill. I stayed for 45 minutes. I set the expectation I was going to bed. And I also brought things with me to kind of just keep it all together. So Brittany says, as a pilot's wife, he literally just told me about using miles to bid for a high upgrade. So 10 years they've been together. Girl, he's saying he's been holding off on you. So I went over 90 seconds. I knew this was 10 minutes, but I wanted to share that I'm able to come to you guys today fresh as a daisy. I'm able to do this because I protected myself as a speaker. You learn your body over time. You learn your body as a speaker over time. You learn what to ask for. But I would say the top things for me was making sure a doctor had taken care of me, making sure that I had already pre-asked for the room overnight ahead of time, and keeping my obligations limited. We have an optional X, Y, and Z, like being honest with them when you are unwell, letting them know. I mean, they actually thought I went overboard. I was like, I brought my test. I'm negative. They're like, we don't need any of that. I'm like, I know, but it makes me feel better for you to know that. And then finally, I use Michelle Loretta. I work with her for the last 7 years on my cash flow. There's a discretionary travel budget every single month. Most of the time I don't use a ton, but it is for modest upgrades, modest things. Getting into, when I flew, where the heck did I go? Oh, I went overseas to Bride Lux. I paid $59 at the airport to go into Turkish Airlines lounge so I could be somewhere to relax and get my work done. So anyways, I bring all this up because this sort of thing is doable. I get this question a lot, and I appreciate you giving me a second to indulge me with this, because I hope this resonates with you guys a little bit. I think it speaks to, being small business owners and managing a little bit of our sanity, managing how we can continue to be great for our families and friends and cats and dogs when we get back, how to be good for the clients and customers who, pay into what we do, which allows us to go out and do these things. So anyways, okay, let's jump right in. So thank you for that. If you ever have any questions, you can always jump into office hours with me about that. I am more than happy to go through that with you. So, and I will say, the last thing I would say is, I said yes to the speaking engagement because I was going to be there anyways. Typically, I don't recommend looking at 2 weeks, 14 days, and being gone for 12 of them or 10 of them. That's not, I don't advise that unless you're someone who's like, I love being on the road all the time. Then great, go do it. I'm not for that, but it was something that was required of me. So you make the best of it. So anyways, welcome back. General housekeeping. I'll keep this short. It's great again to have everyone here. I love all the talks. I keep saying this, but I especially love this week's because this is what I do every day. This is literally it's so funny because I advise my speakers. There's this 60-day window when we go through all of this with our speakers, and we help them, and we meet with them probably twice a year to go through do we adjust things and so on and so forth strategy. But the promotional side is my jam 365 days a year, right? And so what's great about this talk, one, it's very robust. We will hit the 2-hour mark, I'm pretty sure. Two, this is one I know you'll reference time and time again. Time and time again, you will come back and say, oh, wait, what should I do on my site? What does this look like? And because not everyone's ready to go out there and start promoting themselves and putting themselves on a website and so on and so forth, but you're thinking about it. And I think that's great. So again, this week will be a big week for referencing. I'm also pulling a lot of examples this week of things that I do. And so there's going to be a little back and forth between the slides. I rewatched what I did last year, and I actually moved a lot more slide shots to my slides this year so that we could look at this together and say, oh, okay, so this is what it looks like instead of the back and forth on it. So let's go ahead and get going. When it comes to branding yourself as a speaker, I want to talk about why we focus on it, because here's the challenge I see. People get excited and start doing the strategy side. They start coming up with some topics. I've seen many of you in the office hours already coming up with amazing topics, which I think is great, right? And then TSC will do their call for speakers, or you'll catch wind that Wedding MBA is looking for speakers or whatever. You put word out maybe to a friend or two, and they introduce you for speaking and so on and so forth. And what happens is we get in the weeds with that. We're in the action stage, but we've skipped over this part of it. We've skipped over this whole side of it that we really should have spent, put some time into so we could gather our thoughts and frankly, make it more efficient for ourselves. And we're going to talk about efficiency a little bit more on that. I know there's a challenge with the fact that putting yourself out there can be difficult, because then I know this sounds so silly, because once you put yourself out there, you run the risk of actually getting booked, right? And that's exciting and that's scary. And I get it as someone who, even in my early, with my early speaking, I put myself out there, but then I'm like, oh gosh, what if they want me? Then you gotta do the thing, right? And so there needs to be more focus on this ahead of time so you can build a roadmap for yourself. You can go ahead and set the stage, set the expectations, get ahead of it to show them your level of professionalism, right? And, one of the things this happened last year. Oh my gosh, I swear my friend Beth and I were going to arm wrestle over this. WIPA in particular did this was my idea. Actually, I often become victim to my own decent ideas. And I said, why don't we put together a directory of WIPA International and chapter board members who are willing to speak? And I advise, because this is my area of expertise, what you should be asking of them, right? And it could be things like, this is their name, this is their company, this is their, and, I had said we need to require a link to their speakers page, not a whole site, but something. My friend Beth was like, well, heaven knows. I'm like, Beth, you've spoken at Engage, like you've spoken of all these things. Like, why don't you have one of those? And so she and I went back and forth on the importance of having one and important of branding yourself. And to me, I always say this, I'm going to say this again, I'm sure too. You're not going to buy a cake from someone who doesn't have a website for a wedding, right? You're going to hire a photographer. You're not going to hire a florist. You're not going to, Brittany, with your gorgeous paintings, like if you don't have a web presence, it's going to be a lot harder to convert people, right? And so at the end of the day, as much as it's like, that's extra work, yeah, but you need to put something out there because there's a credibility that comes with the, as simple and as difficult it is to put something together to have a web presence, not necessarily the whole site. We're going to talk about the differences between that. Now, here's a fair warning though. Please don't do this until you're ready to book. And note, you could put this out there and it could be, you might fall into the wedding season and not have time to actually like push yourself. And it could take months. And that is fine, because especially when you're submitting to national conferences, you don't hear back for like 6 months anyways, right? So you do the work and then you wait. But don't do this until you're absolutely ready to book. Because if people come upon you, they're coming onto your site, they see this, you have to make sure you have the bandwidth and the preparedness to make it happen. Or might I even add, have some sort of rule with yourself that says, I'm going to put it out there, but make sure I don't book anything within 60 days because I am heading into busy season, because I have a family vacation, because I have, I don't know, a pet party to go. I got stuff I'm planning, things like that. I don't have time. One of the people who adopted one of my cats just threw a huge first birthday party for Minerva, her cat. So, and that took up a lot of time. She should not be taking speaking engagements during that time. You just have to make sure that you do it when you're ready to book and you've set the guideline of how far out it needs to be. Now, here's the good news. And I talk about this a lot when I get on stage and talk about PR. PR, speaking, all the things work really well with hospitality professionals, because a lot of the early stages are about anticipating needs. That is in your DNA. As event professionals in your craft, you can anticipate a ton of things. Example, putting it on myself when I was in venues. I would do a 90-minute to 2-hour venue tour for prospects. And by the end, they had no questions. Let me be clear. They had a list of questions. I had answered all of them. I know what their questions are going to be 95% of the time. We know what we need to cover. Same when it comes to promoting yourself as a speaker. One of the things that I've tried really hard over the years is to get into the mindset of conference organizers, get into the mindset of education people. That is why I've served on education committees. That is why I have formed these great relationships with conference people and education chairs and program chairs, because you have to get to know them and what they need, because the goal, the fastest way to convert to booking, is to anticipating their needs and making it as easy as possible on them. It is exact same with exact same with the media. And it's very similar to what we do day in, day out when we're selling to couples. Anticipate the challenges. No, make it easy on them. Now, when it comes to structuring options, there are different ways to do this, okay? There is a dedicated page on a pre-existing site, which most of you will probably do. It's what I do. And then you can have the option of doing a dedicated site that's all about you as a speaker, okay? So you can do a dedicated page, or you can go ahead and do a dedicated site. And like I said, there's different ways to do that. There is no one right way. You can come on office hours and talk to me about this, by the way. Like, I have no problem like knowing a little bit more about, you come to me and say, here are my goals, this is what I'm looking to do, and I will be happy to go into it with you. Like, there is no problem with that. So please don't hesitate to go ahead and do that with me. Like, that's fine. But my point in all of this is there's no exact answer. And oftentimes it's one answer followed by another answer down the road. I mean, I'm just being like that. That's just kind of how it is. And so obviously there's so many different kind of pros and cons to it. What I'm going to do is show you examples of both kinds. And I'm going to get very candid about it. And I'll tell you why I do what I do and what my clients do and all this stuff too. So let's talk about a full site. A full site. And this is Natasha Miller. Natasha Miller, lovely, lovely lady. I coached her a few years ago. I don't take credit in this site, but I did some guidance and coaching. And so I felt comfortable putting this on. She's an event professional, which you would not know from looking at the site. We're going to talk about that. Well, from that page. With a full page such as that, or a full site, I think the obvious pro is this is a dedicated place that says, here's everything about me. It allows you to craft a first impression to send out. Let me tell you why. Because if you are an event lighting person, correct, that you take that route, and then you have a page that says speaking on it, they're already going to make all sorts of assumptions about what your priorities are because they've already seen all the other things you're doing, right? And then you go a speaker and you say, and also I'm a speaker. With Natasha is like queen of kind of the experiential, like pop-ups and entertainment and like she's entire production. She's very, very, very cool. San Francisco-ish based, corporate, all the things. If you go to her site, it's going to be all about that. And then tucked away, it's going to be about speaking, which makes sense sometimes. And I'll tell you why it works for me that way. But Natasha's a great example of being able to craft a whole site about them as a person. It talks about their successes as an entrepreneur, but it controls the message going out entirely. It forward first, it talks about being, an Inc. 5,000 top entrepreneur. She's focused on business growth. She's focused on being a speaker. That's what she wants you to know first and foremost as a first impression. It also gives you a ton of flexibility, right? You can have a bio, you can do very particular social proof, which we'll talk about later, press, so on and so forth. It can push her book. It can push her podcast. It can push her speaking, all things related more to her personal brand. She's not competing with portfolio images of weddings and events she's done. She's not competing with any other messaging. This is it. This is the message. Now, let's talk about the cons of this. I'm sure you can immediately assume there's going to be a cost that goes with it, right? One of the reasons, there's a main reason I don't do it, but one of the reasons is each of my sites minimally, and I have 3, cost me minimally $7,000 to $8,000 to put together. That is custom build, fully optimized, doing exactly what I need it to do. I mean, could I do it much cheaper? Yes. But do I want it under my beloved Sharif, who knows me like the back of my hand after all these years together? Yeah. There is a cost. There's a cost of time. Even if you get something for $1,000, a cost of time. Putting together all of that copy, putting together even an informal like wireframe of what you want included, what kind of photos, having to approve the looks, all of that. That is a tremendous amount of time. And the less you pay, the more you have to do on your own, right? So you have to ask yourself, does it make sense to do the whole kit and caboodle now to be able to control the singularly focused message versus putting something on my page? Another pro I'd be remiss is this really not only does it like help control the message, it helps expand to other industries, right? So we are, pardon me, we are doing a course on wedding industry speaking. It was meant to be a course on speaking in the wedding and event industry. But someone like Natasha, great example, someone like Rachel Sharon, who got her start here, but now is doing an amazing job being a keynote everywhere. A site like this, where you can control how much you talk about the event industry, and then it can become, far more broad. And if you're looking to do that, if you are looking for the majority of your money that comes in to be keynotes, then you consider that, right? I think this is the way to go for someone like that, who has the time, can budget for it, prefers controlling the message, and how much of the event industry is in the mix there as well. Now, you are going to see, I don't have I have wedding industry speakers, but that's more of a directory of my clients. I don't have a meganneely.com. I hope I own the URL, but I don't. I should. I'm going to go back and look at that. But for me, it's all about the fact that I am a publicist primarily. I am a speaker second. I don't make tons of money speaking. I donated my time because I was at WIPA Ireland and I'm on the international board. It was free. It was not free of my time and money because I lost money when you based on the time I had to, de-Americanize my slides and make sure. I mean, it took me 30 minutes how to make sure I said thank you properly in Gaelic on my slides. I mean, it took a while, right? And I'm glad to do that. I'm glad I did that, but that was my choice. Speaking is secondary to me. I do not want to set aside. There's much better ways to spend $7,000 than having a fourth site. Frankly, I don't want to have to do the upkeep of a fourth site. It makes sense. This is what most people are going to do, guys. Most people are going to have a speaking page on their site, whether it's going to be primary here or in a dropdown. It's a great way to get started. It's a really great way to impress vendors, prospects, and clients as well. I think Gretchen Culver is that great example of, you go to rocket science events and she has speaking at the very top. And I think that is important because when you see something like that, the actual results and so forth, when you see results, you can say to yourself, oh, okay, like, oh no, not results. You see speaking, you say, oh, okay, they are a speaker on amidst other things. There's that level of being impressed. Like you're putting out there that you're a speaker, may not be your primary jam, but you are considered an industry thought leader, and that is going to make a difference to people. So there's different ways to do it, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to that. And so I always like to bring that up is, you can have the dedicated site, but then you can also go ahead and yes, you can't control the message 100%, but it certainly is going to be a more optimal, less expensive, less use of your time and resources way to get the job done to start. So with that being said, tell me in the chat in the next minute, share with me, looking ahead, you want to start putting something together, or whether you've done it now. Would you prefer full site and why? Or would you prefer having a dedicated page on your pre-existing site? So go ahead in the chat if you're open. If you're just thinking about it right now, that's totally fine. I'm just kind of curious where people are, and make sure to put it. I'm seeing some people start to jump in the Q&A. Please put this in the chat specifically. I've got it all opened up. So Sarah's saying a speaker. Okay, speaker page added to the site. Adriana, okay, she says, I had a website that was built. We're launching in 2 weeks. Do you offer a quick review of our press page they built to make sure you can come to my office hours for that? Or, since you're in the collective, that gives you more flexibility as well. I would say go ahead and send the test link over and sign up for the collective office hours, because that's an awesome way to do that. That's what a lot of my members do. I'm seeing Paige. Tamara, okay, let me see. I'm in the middle of creating an education website. Wonderful. And the thing about an education website is what's great about that is it leans closer because you can put speaking on there, but you also have your educational thing. So that's kind of like an in-between. I love that. Kevin says a page. I was thinking about a page for workshops, speaking, consulting, press, and about page. So I would say over time, Kevin, you may start to lean towards, if I may say, and I'm just like thinking out loud here, I think eventually you'll aspire to either a separate site or on your main site, which is where people find you, you could say for vendors, right? So you could press for vendors and then it takes it to a multi-page something or other, right? Because that's a lot to put on a one page. I'm saying, Heather, I like a separate site because I have a team of planners that work for me. And that makes sense. Heather, when you have a team of planners like that, which by the way is very badass, right? I agree that a separate site's going to make sense over time. So Alyssa says, I work for a larger company, don't aspire to start my own business. So a website would be the only logical options. And Alyssa, 100%. And just making sure that you are very clear with the company you work for so that if you don't want them to stumble upon that themselves. Squarespace is what I hear a lot for something that's going to be kind of more of a low-key way to get started. Now, I can't speak to the SEO capabilities of that, but I know that certainly Squarespace works well for those who kind of, they can do a bit of I don't want to say DIY, but it is kind of, they have good, strong templates, things like that, good analytics and so forth. I'm designing an education site to sell templates, but also putting a dedicated page. That makes perfect sense to be able to do that as well. So a couple of you are saying education sites, 100%. It's great to create an education site where you can put your speaking on there as well. Speaker page on my site so people can see both sides of me. Wedding Party Network will build you a whole site for 2,500 to 3,000. Thank you so much. I don't know Wedding and Party Network, so I personally can't refer that, but you saw Sarah jump in, and so thank you for that. That's okay. And Julia, I saw yours on the other side too. Perfect. So thank you for that recommendation. Make sure you guys all get connected there. So that you can kind of see what that looks like. But I think it's wonderful because I think you guys can all see. Can everyone see each other's? Oh, it says to host and panelists. Okay. So let me say this out loud and then I'll say to everyone. Sarah said, Wedding and Party Network will build you a whole website for 2,500 to 3K. So you can look that up. I personally don't know them, so I can't make any referrals on that. But for those I do know, I used to have a Squarespace designer who I loved named Becky Plashaw, who, believe it or not, I got connected with. She went to high school with my brother, but now she's like a grown up, even though my brother in my head is still 14, but he's like late 30s at this point. So she's wonderful. So I can always introduce people for that too. So thank you. That's really great. And this gives me pause to think like in the future, I should definitely talk with folks about the idea of what do you do for because you've got your own site and then a dedicated and then, the page, but also coming up with more of a dedicated site that's education and speaking. So, and then I already shared what I did with that. This is, of course, my speaker page. This is me a bunch of years ago, but I've always liked that picture. This was a crazy speaking event because they went from, I was like a 45-minute breakout to within 2 weeks of the end, they're like, oh, you're going to be a keynote now for 20 minutes, which is like 1,000 times harder, and no notice. And I was the morning after the big gala, which I didn't think anyone was going to come. Luckily, everyone came, but I was like, oh my Lord, this is going to be terrible. So when it came to that, I was like, oh, this is just going to be awful, but it was totally fine. It worked out totally fine. So this is what I do though. And then I also have wedding industry speakers. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Structuring your brand. So, when it comes to structuring your brand, I want to make, just a few disclaimers here to talk about first and foremost. First of all, if you have any intention at any point in your life of creating a website for education, for speaking, personal brand, it could be the smallest little vignette in the back of your brain. Please go to GoDaddy and buy the URL now. Go now. Go, but not now. Wait till the course is over or the class is over. Then go do it. You need to park that URL now so you are not surprised down the road when you get into it and go, oh Lord, what am I supposed to do and so forth when it comes to that. Okay. I'm sure I own Megan Neely. I'm sure I do. But over the years, wedding industry speakers, I bought 3 or 4 years before I launched it. I own over 90 URLs. I got to a point where Michelle came to me and said, girl, we need to put in a monthly budget for this because I do park so many websites, which is kind of a business move as well. But when I come up with ideas and so on and so forth. So make sure, even if you're kind of thinking about it, go to GoDaddy.com. The Honey app is amazing because you can use discount codes. It's going to cost like $10 a year just to park it and sit on it. Yes. Oh, you have 32. That's amazing. Adriana has 32. That's really funny. So, oh, sorry. I had one more disclaimer I wanted to bring up. Apologies. Okay. I got excited about GoDaddy. So I don't want you to panic when I go through this next section. Okay. Because you might panic looking at all the things I think you need to promote yourself on a page. And you're going to say, well, dang, I don't have this. Dang, I don't have that. And that is okay. Please don't panic if you don't have everything. Don't hold yourself back if you're missing certain components. If you look at my comprehensive list, is a huge part of what we talk about today. If you do not have a speaking video, don't let that hold you back. Don't let that hold you back from starting to promote yourself if you're ready to promote yourself. My hope is, and part of me, sorry, the coughing's never going. So I think this is just a part of my charm now. So what I was telling folks is make sure you just, as we go through these things, you say to yourself, oh, I do have that. I don't have that. I do have that. I don't have that. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for. Now, I will tell you, there are 2 resources I have given you in the workbook. You will find a list of things that I would say, listen, whether you're starting on a page or a dedicated site, these are things you want to include. You do not have to go out through everything right now. Okay. But I want you to have a checklist that you can go through to say, yeah, I've got these, or I've got most of these, or I aspire to get the rest of these done, right? So please don't panic. In addition, you are going to see, I do a walkthrough of the Winning Industry Speakers page. I designed this with Sharif. This is a custom site based on exactly what I wanted program and education chairs to have. And I went through the whole gamut on it. So I have, when you go into the PDF, there is a Loom embedded that I did for you guys that takes you through the whole thing. So go ahead and take a look. So let's jump into speaker must-haves. Okay. Here are some things I want you to be able to have over time. And we're going to break all of this down. And we're actually going to have a brief exercise, which is great because I can go get more water because obviously I can't stop coughing. So speaker must-haves. First and foremost, your dedicated social media links. Okay. Whatever those are, wherever you live, a professional B2B bio. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So bear with me. Headshots, which I have so many examples. I can't wait to show these all to you. Your topics, social proof. Optionally, a speaker's video, which we'll talk about different options. I'm going to break this all down. Ideally, a speaker's kit and resources. So, and I'll get into that in a second. So with your bio, you might be sitting here saying, well, I already have a bio. I need you to change your mindset. I need you to think B2B. B2B bios look different than a B2C bio. Your audience has changed from engaged couples to other vendors, conference chairs, program chairs, people in a position to hire you. Instead of saying XXX, I like this, like you focus really on your tenure, your successes, your awards, your press that leans more B2B or like very well recognized B2C. What are your industry accomplishments? They have grown their team to X amount. They have scale, Kevin, you talked about scaling, right? And what have you done there? Like tell people, like for me, my bio is all about my press accomplishments. It's all about, and a little bit of speaker of the year stuff, but it's like multiple recipient of like many PRSA awards and campaigns and honored and been in all the top things and so on and so forth. And so you got to think about that, right? What are your certifications if you have them? You don't need to have them, but what are they? What is your what are your affiliations? What are you a proud member of? For me, immediate past president of WIPA, longtime member of NACE, Allied Council of National Society of Black Wedding and Event Professionals, which actually just got announced. So I need to add that, but those are my things, right? So you've got to ask yourself, what are the awards? What's the press that makes sense? Your emphasis should be on your successes and longevity. And I know that's hard to do. I'll tell you right now that I really, really love my writer. If you ever want me to, I think she's listed in my resources, Lantern Room Creative, Amanda Zach. I hate to say it, but if you do want to write it yourself and you feel that you're a pretty strong writer, you can always start with AI. I'm just going to say it. It doesn't substitute a great copywriter, but if you start with like Jasper or ChatGPT or GPT, anyways, the one everyone's talking about, to at least get you going in terms of ideation. I don't want it to replace good writing. I'm not telling you to have AI write your bio, but it's a good place to start if you just need to jog the, those cobwebs and things like that. I think that helps as well. Now, I have given you sample biographies, okay? I have absolutely done Marvel Easter eggs throughout. So in case you're wondering, yes, I did. So, but let's go ahead and I'm going to do a 5-minute exercise. What I want you to do, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off my sound for a second so I can grab water, but I'll be right back. I'm setting my timer now. In the chat, not Q&A, I want you to list out minimally 3 to 5 must-haves for your bio. I want you to brag. Tell me awards, tell me things, tell me what you want to add to that, okay? Go ahead and do that. I've started the clock now, 5 minutes. Also great break time if anyone needs to use the restroom. And now let's go ahead and put it in the chat. And then I will also be sharing my method to the madness as well with why I include what I include. So think about that and okay, I'm going to mute myself just for a moment. So bear with me. All right. We have a few folks jumping in. Thank you so much. Let me see. I appreciate those jumping in. You got about a minute, so let's go ahead. Tell me 3 to 5 things you'd be bragging on. I want to hear it. As you finish up, I will share that, on my end, it's very important for me to talk about my press where I've gotten people featured, awards, but especially my industry awards, not event industry, but no one else in my industry of wedding publicists, or so few of us, right, have like PR awards, like actual bodies of publicists voting on you. And so that's something that was super important to me. It helps me stand out. Longevity. Hey, Julie, make sure you're posting in chat, not in the Q&A. Q&As are for questions. Do not worry. I did have a question saying, wait, I'm not a member of things. I don't have awards. I don't want you to panic. Every place is going to be different. Not every position, like, not everybody's going to be in a position to get awards. I rep tech companies that there are almost no tech awards in the event industry space, right? In terms of associations, I'm a huge fan of them. I have dedicated 20 years to being in associations and have seen the benefits, but I also know it's most beneficial. Oop, here we go. It's most beneficial when you are local, for that. So, okay. We've got my company's international, built my business into 3 photo businesses, have a team of photographers, videographers, featured in Vogue. Yes, please. Always Vogue and Billboard magazines. Amazing. Is it, you have to remind me if it's Tamara or Tamara. I want to make sure I get that right. I wrote it down, but it's on a separate doc now and I can't get to it right now. So please forgive me if there was a mispronunciation there, but you hit the nail on the head. I've got, let me see, Melissa, I was nominated for Galentine Award, so nominations, 100%. Instructor, absolutely. Logistics, 21 years. Met so many people. I was able to travel a lot too. So Melissa, what's interesting is when it comes to the travel, and I should have mentioned this, so thank you for like a bit of the reminder here. Anything that starts to lean into personal, like I think with travel, your intention was more business oriented, like she's traveled globally and all that. So yes, but if it was more of a, I've traveled a lot and I've loved it, like from a personality standpoint, I always tell people it's up to you to decide how much of like personality you want to put into that, right? For me, I limit things like that, but I think I get the intention of what you're trying to say when it comes to as well. So I've got Sarah says 7 years, best of not, wonderful, proud member of lots of great organizations, WIPA, ICA, NACE, certified elite level winning MBA, working on speaker certification, which I did not know she did a speaker certification. That is news to my butt. That's so funny. I had no idea. Alan Burke should get that because he's NSA speaker certified. He should go get the MBA one too. Former TV, yes, former TV, film, theater, music, NYC. Former educator and Department of Education consultant. Yes. Adriana, former bridal boutique owner. And that's important, guys. I'm going to say right now is, and thank you for that, because in the past, I've told people if you were moving over to consultancy and speaking, and that's why you're doing it, connecting to the dots, your connection to the industry is going to be huge. Worked over 100 weddings, founder of the Creative VA Academy, which I need to talk to you later on the side about VAs. By the way, sometime I need to grab a minute of your time. 24 speaking gigs. And so what I would do, mostly online, which girl, same, 2020 and 2021. I mean, it was me on Zoom. And so I would say with that, I would say that you've been speaking since 2018. I don't know if I don't know if I would hit the number in there, especially since it's virtual, so you got to be careful, but I'd say since 2018. Congrats on joining NACE Milwaukee. I'm working with them on some speaker stuff right now, so they're lovely. All right, 4 years on, leadership board, membership director, Women on the Rise, scaled a unique business in the in the wedding industry when people told me it was not possible. Business would feature in top 10 Black-owned businesses to work with in the wedding industry. Tanisha, get it. That's amazing. Yes, all of those things. 100% perfect. Melissa, oh, okay, great for business. Sarah, oh, funny about Alan. But yeah, Tanisha, you hit everything on there. Like really being, and I should add this to the course for next year. Awards also are being named big things, top lists and things like that. Heather, company celebrating its 20th year, which is amazing, by the way, lady. Amazing. Congrats. I'm on year 14 this year, so 20 just blows my mind. Master Wedding Planner, ABC, NACE Planner of the Year. Fabulous. Good job, everybody. That was a good, I always wonder if I should do that activity, but I love hearing from you guys what makes sense for you. So let's talk about headshots. Gosh, last year I talked about headshots forever and a day, but I think it's really important to kind of dig in here. And I'm going to go ahead and share a method to my madness, because a headshot is not just a headshot, period. Your headshots for speaking serve a different purpose than when you are doing B2C. It just does. And I want to walk you through my path for, take a moment, bear with me. I'm going to share a little bit about my headshots, which, yes, I know I need to update them. Let's just get to the punch on this. I need to go ahead and update my shot. I don't look that different from this, but, oh, thank you. Thank you, Tisha. Thank you so much. I worked my ass off to get these headshots. So, and really the photographer worked their ass off. So let me explain the method to the madness. And yes, I'm fully aware I need new ones. Like I know. My goal by the end of the year is have new headshots. I hear it from everybody. Because these are 5 years old. My hair is grayer. And I don't look that different, but I do look different. Like, I know, but I always say that you got to change your headshots. Renee Dell would tell you take headshots every quarter. But I'm like, girl, I don't know. I am not comfortable in front of a camera. But what I told them, or what I tell people, is when you are just literally not recognizable. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I look like this today? No, I do not. But people can recognize me from my headshot, right? So I'm not that far off. But I mean, I'm starting to get a little far off. So I've got to change it. But back in the day, my headshots looked very similar to everybody else's. There were a lot of like outdoor ones. It was just a vibe everyone did, right? It was just everyone's headshot seemed to be the same. And this is like 5 years ago. And, I wanted to take it in a totally different direction. Like if you go look at some of my old headshots, they totally work for the time period. But I was like, I need to go in a different direction than literally anyone else at the time that I was seeing in the industry, right? So I kept an eye out for ones that I liked. And I actually have a real vision for what I want for the next go around. Although now that I got that nice compliment, it's like, I really want to keep these forever, but I know that's not realistic. Right. And so what I did was I hunted down, and it ends up she lived within an hour of here. And there was this, I don't know if you're going to Harry Potter fans, but I'm just going to say real quick. I caught on to her. I kind of known about her, but she had moved over to studio, which is what I wanted. So many people have like outdoor and action shots. And I wanted I wanted something that screamed professional, little bit of glamour, because Lord knows I'm not glamorous, but I know there is a projection of publicity and I need to be comfortable with that level of glamour. Right. And so, and it's so funny because one of my speakers last year from Atlanta, Jax, like one of our course members, loved these so much, which is like, Melody is amazing. And Jax loved this look so much that she went and flew up here and hired her to do hers. So, and she looked gorgeous in them. So, going with Melody, so to my Harry Potter fans for a second, I popped up, I saw her again on social media because her sister, who's like a huge Harry Potter fan, okay? Long story short, huge Harry Potter fan, she too got like struck by lightning or something. It was like on her leg or her arm. I can't remember. She's fine. Well, Daniel Radcliffe was in town. This is like a true flippin' story. Daniel Radcliffe came into town, into Richmond, Virginia, little old Richmond, Virginia, totally in the news. And he was here filming something. And she ran into him and she introduced herself. She goes, well, I also have a scar and I was struck by lightning. So he looked, and I can't remember if it was I think it was her leg, but maybe it was her arm. So Daniel Radcliffe, in the coolest thing ever, writes, signs her body, signs like her leg or her arm. And it says, to the girl who lived. I think it's her leg. To the girl who lived. And he signed it. So as any huge fan would do, and guys, I would have done the same thing. She went and got it tattooed. She went, because Richmond's full of tattoo places, like full of tattoo places. She went and got the signature tattooed. And then her sister, Melody, took the shots, and the shots of this, and they don't even live online anymore, because I always want to include this. I was like, this is the most baddest thing I've ever seen in my life. Who is this person? So I got reintroduced to her work. And what I learned about Melody over time, Melody is studio focused. She is a hair and makeup artist by trade as well. So she is a photographer, award-winning, blah, blah, blah. But she also went and got trained as a hair and makeup. So she does the whole vision with you. The biggest thing for me, and this is me being a little like vulnerable for a second, I don't like my photo taken. I do not like my photo taken. I spent 15 years with a devastating eating disorder growing up, and have all these body issues. Like, and I know that, and I don't mind sharing that. I'm very public about it. And so I could not just go to any photographer who didn't get that. And so she is someone who literally specializes in shooting women doesn't sound right, photographing women who are not comfortable being photographed. You could not have found a bit. The reason this is so good is because she was the right person for me. So I had a vision. I brought my own clothes, but she also did them as well. I will tell you, I didn't like one of the outfits, but I was like, trust the process. And I still didn't like the outfit at the end, but she did a remarkable job. By the end of this, my body hurt so bad from all of the posing, but she made you look amazing. And so that is my story. I will tell you, and I don't mind sharing, I had to save for this. This took an incredible length of time for me to save for it. It was, and I know you guys are going to balk at this, okay? Because I know a lot of people get free headshots all the time and it's great. I believe in paying for headshots. I believe in paying my photographers for their graft, the end. $3,000. And that was for all of my team. So know that I was investing and I've used those photos hundreds of times. There were so many options. So I share this because I want to be very honest with you guys about a headshot connects you to the audience. It really does make a difference. Now, let me show you some of my fabulous clients over the years and what they've done. And everyone does it different. I love shots in action. I love shots in action. Braun did a full set, and Braun's very public about this, so I can share. Braun, during the pandemic, buckled down. Braun Hansborough, good, dear person in my life. He lost weight over, the pandemic. He looked amazing the first time I saw him. He's always a handsome dude. But he wanted fresh shots and he looked beautiful in them. I thought he looked wonderful. Christy Rice, amazing. Color. This is her. This is her hair. She always wears her hair like this. This is a perfect shot. Now, I will say with hers, the only thing is it's a little close up. So it is harder to crop. I will tell you, as a publicist, that's harder. His is a little bit easier to crop. In action shots, fabulous. Love those. Dana and Courtney, when I first started working with them, I mean, they're gorgeous. All these guys are gorgeous. None of them take a bad shot, right? Braun, Chrissy, none of them ever taken bad shots. So these guys on the left over here, this was their first set with me. But over time, they started to really get a better idea of what they were looking to do. And so they redid new brand shoot. And I loved this. Little bit more glamorous, little hustle and gather. It was perfect. Like, this was the outdoor start. A lot of people start with the outdoor shots. Nothing wrong with it. Look how beautiful they are. But over here, this truly embodied them as a brand. And I love sharing that. Renee Dallow, queen of getting shot. She prioritizes. I love this about her. She prioritizes headshots, brand shots, all of this. And it's not like she's super comfortable in front of a camera all the time, although she does a great job. She has a theater background, but she recognizes her Instagram does better with photos of her. So she usually has fresh ones for me twice a year. And she uses them all over Instagram. They do so well. I love this one because her lip is to die for. Darker hair than usual in the bang. I love that. I thought Gretchen did a killer job with this. I loved her. She does a studio shot as well, right? I still love the interiors. I really do. I'm an interior shot gal for headshots. What's great about this is, yes, it's professional, but it also is her personality. She's a lipstick gal. I know this because she has bought me lipstick. We've exchanged lipsticks. But she also loves like that fun fashion. And you can see that there. It's approachable. Leah Weinberg kills it. Leah Weinberg is all color all the time. And I absolutely adored her photos. And so I'd say once every 2 years, she has new ones for me. And which is fun because she has different hair colors, all that. So she's very fun, approachable, different color. This is one of my favorites of her. I absolutely love this one. I mean, I know it covers her face with it, but I just think it's so different. It takes, this is fun and bright and color. There's a serious side to her, she's a very close friend of mine. There's a serious, smart, lovely side to her that's contemplative. And this is what shows that. And I love that because I think it shows a side of her that a lot of people don't know. Now, this was lucky. This is not a real headshot. Jordan Kentrus, I begged him, Jordan, get a headshot, but then COVID hit. I'm like, gosh darn it. He has like this kind of blurry one we have. And I'm like, I'm dying. I need one from him. But what's great about this is this was shot at Engage. And I saw this and I was like, this is your new photo. Because first of all, he's an impeccable dresser, right? Great smile. And so I was like, we're putting this on everything and it's everywhere and people love it. And yeah, it's okay. Someone asked me last year, is it okay he's looking off to the side? Sure. Absolutely. Look off to the side. I don't care. That's fine. So I bring this up as we kind of wrap up here on the headshots is Don't panic if you don't have one right now. You do what's most comfortable for you. I tend to gravitate towards something that I don't see other people doing. But then other people do, I'm sure by coincidence, when I do, again, by coincidence, not because they saw my stuff, more people do studio because they gravitate towards that. And then I've got to figure out what I'm doing. So I myself am looking right now to kind of what the next step is. And frankly, what I'm comfortable doing. I've had the lady, my good friend Linda, who does our family shots, was like, Megan, you are good. And she even offered to do it for free. But again, I'm not going to do it for free. But she's like, let's rent an Airbnb in Richmond for the day and just like, please, let's do some brand shots for you. And I was like, maybe. So we'll see. So maybe it's better than no. Let's get into topics. Okay. When it comes to your topics, one of the questions I get a lot of the time is, what do I put on a site? Because we've already talked about topics. We've already talked about descriptions. As a reminder, if you go over to, of course, your workbook, you're going to see examples of topics. So the question is, what's a format and order, and how much is too much? Like, let's get into all of this. On a page, it is entirely up to you. If you are focused on having one dedicated page on a larger site, or whether you do a whole page, I will tell you, I prefer, and you're going to see, I prefer just, here's another version of the pictures, by the way. I wish I knew what that lipstick was. I look at it all the time, regretting not asking. So, because I don't think she's a gatekeeper with her lipstick. I'm like, gosh darn it. But anyways, I prefer just the titles. I'll tell you where I put the topic description in a second. Let me tell you why. The more information you put, the more they're going to make the decision without you. Now, is it great if someone can convert without talking to you? Absolutely. But typically, program chair, education chair, they're going to want to talk to you. They're going to go through and say, okay, wait, let me ask you a question. So I would rather, like, I've had people who have come to me and have wanted some of my speakers. And yeah, we don't gatekeep the descriptions. I'm going to tell you where they are in a few minutes. But I want them to be able to like have an eye-catching topic and then decide from there, like, do they want to have a conversation? There's one exception. There is one client of mine years ago who wanted everything all over all the pages. And that was Sandy Hammer with All Seated. And it makes sense to me because All Seated tech is a different vibe, y'all. It is these startups. I represent 3 tech startups right now. And I got to tell you, I know every second counts to us, y'all. It is a different pace. It is a different pace when you got that. And it's like, go and quick and let's get this done. And so on and so forth. And they want, to the best of their ability, to someone to see everything and not ask them questions ever. So put it in their path. And I'm happy to go ahead and, kind of show you what that looks like when we talk about the speaker kit in a second. Sandy needed it that way. Sandy traveled half the year to US and Israel, right? She was like, I do not have time to explain everything or explain myself. So for me, though, titles is what you want. How much is too much? Here's the thing. Oh, in order too. Let's talk about both those. I say put it in the order of what you want to most likely to book, right? Surprise and delight is easy for me. Social proof is getting a little bit easier, but surprise and delight's the easiest. So for me, I want these 2 booked before anything else. These 2 will lead people more likely to hire me. Surprise and delight is in there because if I took it off, everyone would ask for it anyways, right? These at the bottom, frankly, I need to take this one off, but navigating the winning submission boom, I'm going to replace it after DWP with like a more broad-based kind of keynote I'm working on. But I also did a talk on legacy as well and blah, blah, blah. But, I decided what's on there. The top couple should be the ones you want to book the most. The I will go there first. And from there, do it in order of importance of like what you'd like to book. For me, I'm happy to do surprise and delight because it's easy. And sometimes I push people towards that. Like when I'm, if I'm talking to someone and it's within 30 days and I'm very busy and I can do it, it's like, okay, it needs to be surprise and delight. Like that's what I know best. Although social proof is, I could do any of them really right now. But so it's surprise and delight I could do with 5 minutes notice with the cadence. I've just done it so many times, right? So the order is what you want to be preferred. Typically like your top keynotes, the very first one, the one that you really want to push and just, test it, do some A/B testing with it as well. Then the question is, how much is too much? I have strong opinions, but my opinions are my own. I tell my people this. I don't like to see more than 5. I really don't. Like I move them in and out of rotation. Margot Phrase has 1 million. We put them in and out of rotation based on what makes sense for her business and her business goals, right? I would say anything over 5 starts to get to be a bit overwhelming, a bit much. There are some of my clients who do that and they're fine with that. And I'm fine with that. I would say 2 minimally. 3 is kind of the perfect start out. And I've talked to you guys, Kevin, you and I spoke at length last week about that. Heather, you were on there too. You saw that kind of conversation. So I would say I prefer not more than 5, but that's not hard and fast. You can also see, like, we've got newer topics coming out, like Jordan's got AI coming out, and what he does is new in spring 2023, and that's purposeful. We do that because we're not ready for him to put a full thing together, but it's something in the future as well. Now, as a reminder, in terms of format, for those who want to include the whole kit and caboodle, if you will, as a reminder, in your workbook, you are going to have a whole section on topics, a whole section on topic descriptions, and so on and so forth when it comes to that. So, all right, let's move into social proof, which is exactly what I went to Ireland to talk about. It's actually also in the Winning Summit. A different version of it is Winning Summit series. And if anyone's going to TSC, it's also my talk there. So it goes to show how you can like rework a topic. And there is a reason, side note, my social proof topic is around a lot right now because I have a lot going on and I have to be able to, if I can practice once for 4 talks, I'm going to practice once for, I'm going to practice more than once, but you know what I mean? If one practice session is the equivalent of building experience for 3 or 4 sessions coming up, that's better. So social proof is something you have to get into the mindset with when it comes to promoting yourself as a speaker, when it comes to promoting yourself on your Instagram page, when you're promoting yourself on your website. If you do a speaker, any of those things, social proof is when everyone else says you're great. Social proof is a concept. It's a marketing and psychology concept that says when other people are doing it, it's okay for me to do it too. We live social proof every day, even if you don't know the concept, even if you don't know the academic concept of it. One of the great examples, well, I gave an example. I had to pull it out in Ireland because it was Mean Girls. But if you ever watch Mean Girls, when it's like, Katie was wearing these sandals, so I went out and bought these sandals and like that's social proof. The example I gave a couple of days ago is it was 4:45 in the morning when I arrived in Dublin, and I get there and I just follow the line. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And, I get through, I have my bag, all this stuff, and I walk up and there's green and blue customs. And I stood there. I'm the only person, nerd, reading both signs to make sure I'm following rules. I do not want to be the American who doesn't follow the rules because there's enough of those, right? So I'm looking and everything says I should be green. But not a single soul was walking through the green doors. Everybody was walking through blue. And I said, you know what? Good enough for me. Good enough for me. I'm going to go through the blue doors. And guess what? I was fine. That's social proof. When everyone else says you're doing it, they're going to do it. You can do it too. When everybody else says that you're great. Because, at the end of the day, you can go on and on about all the things that make you great. But at the end of the day, there is more power to other people giving you the accolades. Social proof includes a number of things. It is where you have spoken. Let me give you an example, 2 examples. Okay, this is admittedly one of my more dated ones, but I want to explain the method to my madness on this. Okay, we have a couple places where we put in some of these dates will be updated, but I kept this on purpose and didn't replace it because I wanted to explain why it is what it is. So at one point, this was my series of logos to show where we had been and placed people, okay? It may just look like a bunch of dumb logos, but no, there's so much more to it. Let me explain why I do what I do. First of all, the big industry, ILEA, WIPA, IMEX. And this is before NSBWEP, as you can tell, because it was like 2019, kind of 2020, before they had speaking stuff. So, but all the big ones would be on here. It is some of the larger conferences like Wedding MBA, Cater Source, and Special Event. I added 2 that were going to be international. In addition, we also had boutique like Be Sage. And at the time, Be Collective was actually on Clubhouse that year. IMEX is corporate. All of these are put in a very particular order to show how well-rounded things were. Okay. So this was a good example. Now, these days, I have this on my wedding industry speaker site, and it's obviously more updated. So you see boutique, you see Wedding Pro, which is kind of the aspirational place, MPI, corporate, IMEX, corporate, NACE. I want people to see where we've had the ability to place them in the past and so forth. So when you get to a point where you have spoken at 2 to 3 places, that's where you want to start putting recently seen at. That can be a panel, that can be virtual, that can be local, national, live, not live, recorded, whatever you want for people to be able to see that. And okay, Sarah, I see this here. I'm going to, in the future, questions should go in the Q&A and we'll just do commentary in the chat, but totally fine. When you're starting as a speaker, other than in smaller markets like chambers, local channels, that's the biggest challenge for those. Oh yeah, I guess, you put this in the chat. This was perfect. I'm sorry. That's the biggest challenge for those of us wishing to get into wedding speaker market. So this part is painful. Okay. Let me give you a pep talk. Megan Ely, this girl right here, speaking in third person. I did not have all of this on my page. I am 14 years into a speaking career. Okay. When I first got started, let me list where I started. Okay. Are you ready? Local Richmond Bridal Association at 23. I spoke on Gen Y marketing. Okay. Teeny weeny group. I knew the organizer. I was scared to death. I would love to see whatever that PowerPoint looked like, right? 20, I was a baby. Richmond Bridal Association, 1. 2, ADGJA, the DJ group in town. JB Bostic, may he rest in peace, one of my favorite humans of all time, gave me a chance putting me on a panel as the venue person. Great, ADJA, put it on there. When I got started, I helped moderate a Richmond NACE panel, a panel of recently married, like newlyweds. Great, Richmond NACE. I drove 3 hours to speak to 10 people at the Shenandoah Wedding Professionals. I also volunteered for local small things. Those things add up. There are plenty of free ways to speak locally. There are chambers, there are rotaries, there are teeny tiny local associations. People like Margot with Wedding Summit Series is always looking for fresh voices from all over the industry. Evolve Your Wedding Business, Heidi Thompson, looking webinar series. There are plenty of local WIPA, NACE, all those things. If you were a NACE member, go talk to them about the options for a webinar. If you are an NSBWEP member, go talk to Tara. Tara's going to be like, gosh, Megan, you said people, Tara, I know Tara's a busy lady, but talk to her. What are the education? She is so passionate about bringing someone who's an allied council member who's getting a lot more involved. I see the passion they have for education within their organization. There are ways to build, but I wanted to share with you, my stuff did not start with. That's the funny thing is I got into Wedding MBA on a wing and a prayer. I'll be honest. NACE pushed me onto the stage for a 10-minute talk, but I'd been going for like 4 or 5 years. I mean, this is, I guess people, they don't know you at the beginning. They don't know you until they know you and they forget. So please know, a little pep talk here. We all start somewhere, right? So just know that that takes time. So then you've got press logos, because see, social proof is not just about where you've spoken. It's going to be your press, your podcast. Let's talk about press. This is what we have. Learn from our speakers. And we go into all of the things from, Christy, you saw earlier, and Jen and Renee and Julie. Start sharing your press. That is related to your craft. I'm not going to have Renee Sabo talks about the top color trends, right? That has nothing to do with what she does. But it is going to be, when she's talking about emotional marketing, we're going to put that there. That's why that 8th week, I'm going to sit down with you guys, y'all. We are going to go through the magic of, and I'm going to give you so many resources. You're going to be falling all over the place. You won't believe all the stuff I'm about to give you on how to build social proof as a result from that. Finally, testimonials, right? You want to make sure, oh yeah, sorry. Here's the other thing too, is press pages. That's the thing that we do as well. Testimonials, my lovely, once again, my colorful, lovely Leah Weinberg. Testimonials when you can get them. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just going to say it. Forgive my French. I suck at testimonials. I forget to ask people. I only have testimonials because luckily Wedding Wire World now, the knot like sends them to me after. Like I forget. I should ask for them more often, but I do not. And I need to. And I know that. But you have a good run with someone. If you've got a friend in the audience who heard you, have them write you a testimonial. Send them a Starbucks gift card. If you have someone from a conference, from a program chair, education chair, have them write you one, please. That is just the way to go. So what we did for lovely Leah is we just went on Canva, which highly recommend if you don't have Canva. I pay like $150 a year for the professional, but they have a free version. We set up a template. She actually adjusted the colors to better match what she wanted, and we added them in there. And she really focused on what I really loved is she had a really great peer of hers do that as well. So just know that social proof, and I appreciate you, being vulnerable, saying, hey, listen, like that freaks me out, having all those speaking logos. Social proof is your expertise in many different ways. So just remember that. So let's talk about another stressful thing, speaking videos. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, when I said at the beginning, don't panic, y'all, do not panic about not having a speaking video. That's what I was talking about. It is something you should have at some point. What do you need exactly? You presenting in front of an audience, ideally not a webinar, but when you get a chance that you're engaging with the audience, okay? So this is not going to be, ideally not you doing a webinar. It's going to be 2 to 3 minute snippet, a best part of you speaking at an act. They want to see you engaging with the group, okay? If you want an example, don't go to my page. Mine's too long. There's a reason for that. Go to see Jordan Kentris over at Wedding Industry Speakers, okay? Jordan Kentris, recently he spoke in Central Florida. We barely made it out before the hurricane hit. That is another story for another. If you ever want to fly an empty plane, JetBlue to Florida, fly a day and a half before a hurricane's about to hit, and there's a state of emergency. Just putting it out there. A little travel, stick with me for travel hacks like this. So, and he spoke, and we asked and said, is there any chance we could use some of this? And he was very lovely about it. The program chair, she was very lovely about it and allowed it to have it. But I will tell you, so the format was like an MP4. Okay. Typically what I have with my site is if you can upload it to YouTube and then we made it unlisted, but we made it public, but embedded on the site. So that's what we did. But it's only 2 to 3 minutes because 1, no one's going to watch the whole thing. 2, if people paid to see you at something, those conference organizers, rightfully so, don't want you to share the entire, like that person should have paid to go, right? I suggest a couple of minutes. You don't need it much longer than that. I'm cool with a sizzle reel. If you are someone who has a ton of speaking and you want to put it all together, yes, but it needs to be professional. I have a beloved friend of mine, not a client, but a beloved friend, and her sizzle reel is made up of a ton of Insta stories. I don't like it. I even told her that she didn't ask my opinion, and I'm not going to break her heart. Well, I mean, if she asked me, I would tell her, but it's all about professional, clean looking, so on and so forth. What are my alternatives? You could do you doing a podcast interview that's on a video. You could do a Q&A that you've done before. Hustle and Gather has one that's like a Q&A live podcast that was recorded. You could do a webinar. I don't love those, but yeah, do it. If that's what you want, you really feel like you need to do that. Oh yeah, you do remember that. Yeah. And so you remember, I'm assuming you remember the hurricane. That was bananas. Like if you guys ever want to talk in office hours about managing a natural disaster, I'll tell you. Okay. So let me tell you that this looks ridiculous. This is my video from too many years ago, but I have my surprise and delight. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I do pay for people to record me sometimes. Okay. I also know WIPA records everything. So you have to decide if you can put that in your contract to use some of it. But the best thing I ever did, well, one of the best things I ever did is become friends with my friend, Chris Harmon, because I love him. Chris Harmon, Harmland Vision. He is based out of Dallas, Texas. He is my 75 hard friend for life, right? Like I would do anything for this guy. He's lovely. He's going to be at B-Stage next week. I'm very excited about that. And Chris is wonderful. He's the incoming next year's NACE DFW president. And I saw the work he did. Like I know him as my workout buddy, right? Like that, I know Chris at a different level, right? But then I saw his work with NACE. I was like, damn, Chris, you're like super good at this. Tell me more. So we're Marco Polo friends. We're Marco Poloing back and forth. And he's like, I'd really love to go to MBA. And I said, let's talk about that. Because if I can bring out a videographer, right? I can get you a ticket for free because that's how like Shannon is generous with that. If you're bringing in a professional, and she loves that. Right. And so Chris is like, yeah, I'll do it. So he did admittedly pay for his flight. And to be honest, you go back and forth on that. We went back and forth on what was going to make the most sense. And I have enough miles. I could take care of him. It's fine. But he wanted to fly out. So it was fine. He did it himself. But what I did is I went to my speakers and I paid him $500 twice. I think it was 500, maybe it was 300. I paid him several $100s. It was his fee though. Okay. And then I offered up to my speakers. He booked like 8 of them. And then he was doing such a great job. He booked people on site. So if some of you are looking to do Wedding MBA this year and speak, let's stay in touch, because I do know that and he was so easy to work with. And I'm just going to say it right now. Chris is a friend who knows me differently than most human beings. He knows my struggles with body image. He knows my challenges. And having someone who is rooting for you on stage like that to be your filmmaker, I'll tell you right now, if anyone ever feels self-conscious on stage, you have to know the videographer. And that's why him, I've had Nate Nelson, who's part of my 75 Hard too. He actually edited and did video for me. And it's because I'm comfortable with them because they know me at a different level. So I know that sounds weird, but like, it's really true, guys. If I know this doesn't account for everybody in the room today, but if you are someone who's not comfortable in front of a camera like I am, which I know surprises people, you're better off when you have someone who can really jump in and like take care of you. You know what I mean? So it's worth it. But I do pay for that. But usually I can like work out something with them. What I was going to make fun of is, this is silly looking and I need to go ahead and adjust it. You can go into Canva, hot tip, go under, type in YouTube thumbnails, and you can make this sort of thing. And this is another Renee Dallow special. Renee is like queen of amazing photos. I'm always like, Renee, oh my gosh. She was afraid. She's going to be Sage this week. And she was like, oh my gosh, like we have like 14-hour days. And she's like, I don't know how I'm going to look after 14. I was like, do you ever have a bad looking day? Like, I'd almost welcome the day she doesn't look good in front of a camera. So, but just go and do that. I think that's such a great thought when it comes to like creating this sort of, graphic and so on and so forth with that. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Her power of language is fabulous. She's really great. You know, if you've never seen Renee Dallow speak, make the time if you can. And that's not me trying to sell her. She is one of my most booked speakers. She's one of my most popular. She has a theater background. She is so good on stage. She's great in front of a variety of different audiences, and she's very good at converting an audience. Like, people love her. Wedding MBA is her stage, man. You put her in a room with 600 people who are all planners, and it's like, it's a real honor to see that. I'll be honest. Like, I love that part of my job. Okay. Optional, but Google likes it. Sarah Dunn was in my class last year and she left because I blamed her for this. On my speaker pages, look at wedding industry speakers when you get a chance, not because I'm trying to push anyone or anything. It's because that site is completely the inside of my brain, right? What I know programming in chairs want. So what we have at the bottom of many, it was all optional, but many of the pages is, here's the thing. I'm not an SEO expert, but I have an SEO expert, Sarah Dunn, and I knew that because it wasn't going to be a lot of updates regularly, blog, like there's certain things I wanted to optimize for, right? And so what she suggested we did is, now there's an interview under a lot of them, including myself, with a picture of me being way too blonde at Banff. This is me speaking at Engage Banff. This was my first Engage, and I was too blonde because I was trying to get to gray, and my hairdresser and I were a bit challenged on what I was supposed to do, but we got there. But anyways, in case you're looking, saying that doesn't look like you. So we do an interview. And because we do these interviews now, that helps with the content moving people up to the point where some of my speakers, if you type in their name into Google, my site comes up before theirs. And I was like, listen, I pay money for that to do that because I want people to find you there. So let's get into what I was chatting about, a speaker kit. Now, when I say speaker kit, it really is, it is a resource kit. A speaker kit, I got to be careful with the word. I call it speaker kit, but it's really a resource kit. What it is this. Let me tell you, none of us have unlimited time. None of us have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, all the staff in the world to answer every single question about everything all the time. And what I found was, as people were booking me, there was a lot of work that went into, hey, Megan, I need your logo. Hey, Megan, I need your headshot. Hey, Megan, I need all these things. I thought, you know what? I need a page on my site where people can just download these. Like, let's make this easy. And thus, my resource kit was born. I suggest, and let me show you what it looks like, and I'll go back to this page. This is what it looks like on my wedding industry speakers page. This is Nora's. This is Nora's page. You need a speaker kit because it makes your life easier. You can refer people to it. Right now, I have WIP Ireland. I have B-Sage I'm like a sponsor, but I'm speaking blah, blah, blah. And a Wedding Summit series all within a week. In addition to people from Qatar at DWP needing me, in addition to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just booked WIPA Las Vegas. I'm doing a coffee chat out there, I think in April while I have spring break. And everybody needs all the same things. Great. Refer them to that link over and over again. Go to the link. But in addition, you know how we talk about anticipating people's needs? I'm going to tell you right now, and this is absolutely confirmed by the many conversations I've had with education chairs. I talk to WIPA education people all the time. They love this. My WIPA Ireland person, again, appreciated that we anticipated her needs and gave her everything she needed. You booked me, great. You click on this right now. It's literally everything you need to promote me. Who benefits? Outwardly, conference chairs, program chairs, education chairs, people booking you. They love it because it's one less step. You have to remember, and we're going to get into this when we talk about like booking local stuff, like association stuff. People who book at the association level are literal volunteers. You guys know that. Many of you are you're volunteer board members. None of us are getting paid for that. If you are, tell me, because I should jump on. I've never been paid for any of my stuff. So they need it as easy as possible, just like the media. Now, so that's what it typically, here, some people will say, already book the speaker. Here are some resources and it's individual download, but ours is, well, I'll show you. So what do you include? High res, pardon me, headshots. Let me take a quick sip of tea. I apologize. High res headshots, vertical and horizontal. Be careful on those close-ups. I love the beautiful Christy Rice in her picture. What I don't love is I can't crop it very well. Same with Kevin Dennis. He's had the same headshots for 10 years. I'm like, Kevin, I can't crop, and it's harder to put things into Canva for an Instagram post with that stuff. When I say high res, I know not everyone here is a photographer and will know this, but high res means larger files, because when it comes to photos, guys, if it is a small file, you can't enlarge it if it's low res, if it's web ready. But if it's high res, it can be made smaller. Otherwise, you worry about it getting blurry. My general rule of thumb is, and if someone has a question, let me know. Like, I can drop you guys. Maybe I'll do, in the collective, I have this, what's high res versus low res. I use cat photos because I do, and it explains it better. But high res typically is going to mean for someone who knows pixels, which is essentially if centimeters and inches are what we use for units of measurement, it's also pixels is what units of measurement. And I'm just saying this in a very basic way. I'm not a photographer for photos. 2,500 pixels at the shortest length, 2,500 pixels across. Essentially, you really don't want a file size larger than 3 megabyte, usually, right? For the most part. Give them options of vertical and horizontal. High res logos, pings, PNGs are preferred. You could do a JPEG. Don't send it as like an AI or an EPS or PDF or any of those things. That's what they need. Topic descriptions, plain old Word document, a brief bio. Some people do different versions, longer, shorter. Make sure they're updated. An introduction. Some people just read the bio. I tell people, here's the thing about introduction. I don't care how people introduce me. I want them to introduce me, but like, I don't. So I find that when it's personalized, it's funnier. Kevin Dennis, my BFF on the road, he has introduced me the most. He totally messes with the crowd. He has called me his older sister. He is literally 10 years older than me, but he calls me his big sister, gets a laugh in the crowd. The best introduction I ever got was, I was at Wedding Wire World. Forgive me if I told you already, but Eilenberg turned around and said, how do you want to be introduced? He walked on stage, very uncharacteristic. I said, call me a Grey's Anatomy historian. And he did. And it was hilarious. One of the best ones I ever did, my best friend who's nervous in front of a crowd, but like she's got just this amazing, best personality you'll ever see. She introduced me and people were howling to the point where I was like, I think she should give the presentation. Like she like impersonated me as a robot. Like it was this whole thing. So my point telling you all this is your introduction doesn't have to be formal, like, but it's nice when it's there. Your AV requirements. I'm going to give this to you in your workbook, but you want people to have that immediately. Listen, when I went to WIPA Ireland and said I need a microphone, that was not a surprise to them, because I say when the room has more than 25 to 30 people, maybe 50, I need the option of a microphone. But because right now I'm speaking to you the way I normally do because it's only 2 hours. And I'm not projecting because I'm in a room by myself, well, with my cats and my tea, but I'm by myself. But I sound differently recently because I spoke at the National Speaker Association for 90 minutes last Friday. And I had to speak differently with like a lower kind of tone in order not to cough as much, right? And like to keep my breath. So I have to have a microphone. So it also doesn't surprise them when you say what kind of computer you have, which, by the way, if anyone's in the market, I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I finally replaced my MacBook, which I was having all these problems with. I will tell you, full disclosure, I finance at 0% for it through the Apple financing. And their new Mac, guys, has an HDM hookup and 16 to 18 hour battery life without a charge. 16 to 18 hours, guys. I used my laptop yesterday for 13 hours without needing a charge. Just putting it out there for anyone in the market, anyone looking to invest. That thing's the best thing I've ever put my money down on for a computer. Optional, name pronunciations. I don't do one because most people say Megan, Eli, Ely, whatever. I'm fine. But my friend Alea Harris, Harris is easy, but for some people like Alea, once you know it's Princess Leia, in my head for a long time, I called her Princess Alea. No, I called her Princess Leia Alea because I knew how to pronounce her name. But put a name pronunciation. If this is something, when my maiden name was Belargin, yeah, I would go ahead and do that. So, you can put that in there as well. So let me show you as well is why this is so important, is because what you can help people out with is, well, a couple things too. With Canva, sometimes you can create your own speaker graphics, people update them, but they can create these on their own because they have everything they need. It's quicker to market. It allows them to promote faster. It really does make a difference. Now, the key is going to be format. Okay. The key at the end of the day is going to be to make the format as easy as humanly possible. I'm going to show you what we've done. I'm going to show you what we do now. So what we did was, for a long time, and you see this is just expired, but that's fine because we don't do it like that. We did a Dropbox transfer file. So we would know when people would download. And I did that, but the problem is you have to have an expiration with it. And I know this sounds like stupid, but I hated getting the expiration like a year later and having to update them all. I was like, this is so annoying. And every time you update it, you have to make a new transfer file. It's just a pain. I didn't want to do it anymore. So now we just do like a link and we're like, this is the link and the access. Now, I will tell you that I would prefer to convert over to Google Drive, but there's like this, and if anyone can solve this, let me know. I'll owe you a few Starbucks for this. Is my problem is I have had Google Apps for Business for so long that yes, I can invite people to things, but I can't make a folder public and share it with the public. It will not let me. It can only be accessible for people without oftconsulting.com. The end will never change. I've tried fixing it. I would probably move this over to Google if I could. Like, I am a mess. And Kevin, I will send you a Loom, a 2-minute Loom, and show you what the problem is. If you can fix it, I will take care of caffeine and cake pops for you for some time, because that has been the bane of my existence. My writer can do it. Everyone can do it. Megan at OFT Consulting, her Google Apps does not allow for that. But whatever you can do that people can access, they can download, they cannot change the folder, but you make it as easy as humanly possible. And I promise you, you will save a ton of time doing it this way. It will anticipate their needs. Now, let's talk about the idea of moving it to a full site and how to know if you're ready. When you make the decision, because I think a lot of you, well, some of you are kind of the in-between doing like the education as well. And I'm here for that. Like, I think that makes sense for those sharing that. And I'm excited to see that. So if you, during this time together, send me your link. We can take a look at it in office hours. But oftentimes it gets to the point where you start thinking about, do I move it to a full site? When you are ready, I'm actually going to steal you guys as my example. When you are ready to move to being a B2B education expert status, you consider it. When you are ready to evolve beyond the wedding and event industry, and let me tell you, not all of you will. Me, mark my words, I'm not evolving outside of that. I am married to the wedding industry. When I retire, I will retire from the wedding industry of doing PR. Hopefully that's what I'm still doing, right? If I choose to still do that. But a lot of people, like the Rachel Sheerans of the world, the Natasha Millers of the world, those folks are the ones who want to evolve beyond that, and all the more power to them. When you find that you've got a larger body of social proof to share, that makes a difference. Where, Kevin, you were talking before, you want this one page, but you listed a lot of stuff under it. And I would say over time, you might outgrow that. You might not for a while, but it's something to think about. When you can set aside the resources, that's not just, I'm not talking money. I am talking money. I'm talking the writers, the designers, the people, your bandwidth put together. I got to tell you right now, I have a super secret I cannot share with you until our last class. I am so flippin' excited. I am building out something, and it is only a portion of one site. And it is going to take me 3 months to do this because I have to incrementally do it over time. It took me a week and a half just to send feedback that turned out to be a 2-minute loom because of all of this, COVID shenanigans and virtual school and spending 5 minutes in Dublin. You know what I mean? So you've got to have the time to do that. Do you have the resources of what you need? And do you have the URL at the ready? Listen, I don't want you doing anything other than a .com unless you're out of the country. I don't want a .net. I don't want a .info if you can help it. You can change my mind on that, and that is fine. I would say, though, finding the right .com, making sure that you're covered. I waited way too long to trademark or get a copyright or whatever the lawyer got me to do. I waited way too long. I also knew there was no other OFD, right? But you just have to make sure you have covered your bases. Do you have the appropriate URL? What's the name? Is it your name? Is your education site separate or it's called something else? Is there any chance, have you run a trademark search, which is free, and show you whether there's going to be any conflict down the road? Do you have time to spread the word about this? So it really comes down to, are you ready to make the move? Are you ready to make the commitment? I'll tell you right now, I don't have any interest in having a meganeely.com because I have the 3 sites. Wedding Industry Speakers was built for a purpose. And a lot of my speakers will have a speaking page on their site that you click on it and it takes you to like my site. So just be mindful of that. So when it comes to that with a speaking site, making sure, as we talked about, kind of revisiting a bit here, is making sure when you have a speaking site and you want to make that move, a speaking site will have typically a dedicated profile, like an about us, about me, about whomever page. And it's going to be that B2B bio. It's going to be a picture of you, could be a picture of you speaking, could be a picture of you on a podcast or pretending to be on a podcast. Expanding on your offerings. More than likely, those offerings, it could be your speaking offerings. It could also be the course books, the workflow. Some of you are coming up with amazing education sites. Great. What does that look like? You can separate out your social proof with a speaking site. That could be a dedicated press page, a dedicated where I've spoken, dedicated podcast page. It's whatever you want, but you can spread it out instead of having it on one page. Related projects, book, podcast, so on and so forth. Alan Berg's great at that. He has alanberg.com. He's got all the things on that you can take a look at. If I may say, you also want some sort of lead magnet, call to action, something. If you are someone who's opening, some of you guys are talking about having an education site, I would hope over time you have some sort of lead magnet, some sort of free and easy grab that people can go ahead and drop their email address in and download, and then they go to your email list. That is what you need, period, end of story. Like I have one on the collective. I will tell you, on my collective site, I have a dedicated, over the last 6 years, I've collected like 400. I probably collected about 430 emails, and people unsubscribe over time, or I move them over to like clients and stuff. We're at about 385 or so. 385. When I send out an email, the open rate average is 65%. That is bananas. That blows any sort of average out of the water. Consider starting small with the lead magnet. From there, you want to have a contact page that is specific to speaking. Okay. Specific to speaking as well, making sure that you've got that. So now I'm branded What in the World I Do. You may want a soft launch. You may want to publicly announce it. Completely up to you. The question is, if you're ready to publicly announce it, is the audience ready to receive it? Are you comfortable with your message? Is this going to get to a point where if someone reaches out, you're ready to book them? That's the thing. You may want to softly launch it, see how it goes, test it, and go from there. I tend to soft launch things, and then later I announce. I do a bad job at announcing some of my initiatives. I just do. It's so much work. I'm human, and it's so much work just to do the things that you're like, oh, dang, let's just turn on the lights and see. But I like to test to make sure it's working. Okay. Update your social media profiles. Ask yourself that coveted, like, If you've got a bio link, do you have some sort of dedicated link tree or something like that where they click and it takes you to your branded page, it takes you to this and so forth. Link when appropriate. If you have a separate page, have you gone back to your original site to make sure you put something there? Because even if you have separate pages, you should make sure you link over. Consider updating your email signature. I use that in my social proof talk. My friend Mara does a really great job with her stuff. Put it there. Add it to your correspondence. Let people know. Personal outreach. Looking ahead, we're going to talk about PR strategies. As part of OFD Collective, we get these PR leads that come in. I know some of you know this, so forgive me. Do about 25-ish press editorial opportunities a month. Some of my people have a B2C site because they are a planner, because they are they're in lighting. Kevin Dennis, the other Kevin in my life, great example. There are times where he will be quoted for Fantasy Sound for his lighting and entertainment company. Sometimes it's Wedding IQ, which is his branded B2B site. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about when you do a podcast interview, do you interview as yourself as a speaker? Do you interview as yourself as, a lighting person, a balloon artist, so and so forth? And what does that look like from there? Now, let's go into top questions. We actually may have a few extra minutes at the end. I'm actually going to ask you at the end, for those who are going to be Sage, I'm going to have you write in the chat if I know some of you I already know, but let me know if you're going to be Sage. In the comments, I want to talk about that at the end since we have a couple extra minutes, because Be Sage is coming up this week. So let me know. So I want to go over a few brief questions that I get, and it like I usually do. And this is the branding yourself edition. So some people ask, does this branding work for other mediums such as TV, podcasts, etc.? Yes and no. Depends on which way you go, right? I would suggest that when it comes to podcasts, if you are someone who has a dedicated site, I think at some point you consider a page that is going to talk about where you've been on podcasts and have a dedicated podcast kit. Because here's the thing, if you go to Wedding Podcast Guests, I think it's plural. If it's not, then it's singular, but whatguests.com, I own that because I own everything, right? And it's all of my speakers and it's dedicated podcast kits. And what's great about that is about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I went to 25 of my wedding industry podcast people and said, I will give you a Starbucks gift card if you take 2 minutes to fill out this form. It's 3 questions. I just need to know what you need. And I found out they needed horizontal photo. They could get away with a speaker kit, but all I had to do was update. They wanted pronunciation. They wanted dedicated questions sometimes. They wanted horizontal photo, a few extra things, right? They had their own podcast kit. I would say over time, adjust to that. I would say for media and so forth, I would say there's a bit of a difference between having a speakers page and then on your media page, your press page, having media resources, which we'll talk about on the 8th side. Oh, are you guys writing about Be Sage? Okay. Yes. Okay, good. Brittany, I see that, girl. I'll tell you something at the end here. And Adrian, I know you're going to be there as well. So, what just happened? I'm so sorry. I got excited. Okay, Wedding Podcast Guests. So it is an S. So you'll see if you click on them, they have their own things when it comes to that. So what if I have a topic being pitched exclusively? Should I include it publicly? So there are some conferences that literally like you have to do it here first and nowhere else. Engage, that's one of them. Some of the higher caliber like DWP and PX show in Bride Lux or now RSVP Club, they may not say it, but it's kind of like intended that you're with them first. Okay. In addition, Be Sage would prefer that it's yours first. So what I typically do is if I'm speaking, which I'm doing something a little bit different at Be Sage, but if I am at Be Sage and I'm going to speak on X and it's in February, I would say available starting April 2023. And I would put the topic, unless you think there's going to be some sort of conflict. If I speak at Engage at Banff and it was on X, I would have something to make it available later. I would not put it on there unless in that capacity. What if I have new topics I want to announce, but I'm not ready to put it together? I actually already answered this a little bit. Do it for later in the year, available beginning in fall 2023, and put the topic in there so that people can book ahead with that. That's fine. Do I need separate social for speaking? Okay, I am not a social media expert. So I'm just saying, take this with a grain of salt. When it comes to social media, there is going to be a time where you will separate a little bit from your day-to-day brand, and it is going to make more sense. For me, being a publicist and speaking all works together because I offer speaking services. I am a rare bird, but there's going to be a point Brittany does live painting. Brittany is amazing at that. Speaking can be on her site for a while. People can see that she goes out and speak. That's going to impress people. But there is going to be a time where she may want to break between the two of them and to save that URL, or excuse me, save that username when it comes to that. Some of you are starting education. I think it's going to be time that you have separate, because you have separate messages. You don't want to mix the two because you don't want to mix the two too much that it gets confusing for people. Over time, yes, there are people that it's going to make sense that you go ahead and do that. So, okay, we went a little under today. Recap and homework. I want to go through this. First, you never have to do the homework. And please stick with me. Don't jump off because I got to remind you about next week. You never have to do the homework. I am just telling you that if this resonates with you right now, you can do this now. If this resonates with you in 3 weeks and we're still doing the course, bring it to office hours. All I'm asking is for you to personally, internally go through the worksheet. You don't need to turn it in. I've had that question. You simply need to go through and see what you have and what you're working on, what you need to get out there. That's what I would recommend personally. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be smart to do that. So recap and homework. The biggest thing on the homework is just making sure you have an idea of what sort of plan have you put together. You can always come to office hours and send me a link to take a look at things. If you are a member of the OFD collective, which several of you are, you can use office hours. But remember, our collective office hours are dedicated 15-minute increments. So we get a little bit more time. Ooh, okay. Tamara asked me, which Mac do you have? I'm a PC girl, but I've been eyeing the Mac. Okay, I'm going to answer that for you because I think this is important. That's a great question. First of all, everybody is different. So let me just say everybody's different with that. I have had a Mac. I've done PC and Mac for a million years. Everybody but Nora Shields, I think, has a Mac in my group as well. They're just easy. And I have an iPad and I have an iPhone. They all work together. And let me tell you, Macs do break. I don't care what anybody says, y'all. Macs break. I'm not like an evangelist about Macs, but I like my Mac. So this is very important. I am going to stake my claim on this. I'm going to give you my advice, but I am also going to say this one thing I say right now. You have to promise me you pay attention to this part and you do it. So I am a big fan of, I know there's refurbished Macs and people can buy those. And I get that. The 2019 model, which people bought because it says 2019, but the 2019 model was being sold as the newest model for 2020, the newest model for 2021. I am sorry, it is garbage. I have done all the research. I've had 2 of them. I've had to return them. I've had to have them rebuilt. I have done all of the research on them. The MacBook Pro 2019 model, I don't care if it's the earlier in the year version or later one, complete garbage issues, even the rebuilt ones where they have the keyboard. Do not get them. I don't care if they're refurbished at a better deal, y'all. Do not do it to yourself. I saw someone selling one recently and wanted to be like, oh my God, don't sell this. Let me be clear. With my most recent one, that was the 2019 model. It was a newer one. I'm not going to tell you because I'm embarrassed how long ago I bought it and had to buy a new one. When I tried to turn it in for credit, it was $450. That tells you what garbage, Mac, even Apples think they're garbage. So sorry to get on my thing here, but 2019, I've done all the research. They have bugs and issues and the keyboards don't work. And when you turn them in, they keep them for 2 to 3 weeks. And then what are you going to do? Right? I had to buy an iPad with a keyboard to manage in between. It was awful. Anyways, okay, sorry, girl. You asked me a question and I went on a tangent. I have the new, and I will send you an email. I have the new MacBook Pro. It's the brand new one because it has an HDMI hookup on the end, which means I don't have to carry around adapters anymore. And the battery, I've gone as long as 18 hours without charging. 18 hours. I plugged in for this course. I had used my laptop for 3 hours 2 hours in the airport yesterday, 8 hours on a flight. So I used it for 10 hours and then I used it for 2.5 hours this morning. So I hadn't charged it in 2 days. And then I plugged it in just for the course. Okay. So that is what I use. I will tell you, I use it because I need a lot of space because I have a lot of photos. I need a 1 terabyte, but if we're in our safe space, some of you are going to hear about this in the collective. Megan's the other Megan in my group, she's very honest about this in public. So I'm just saying she has a medical emergency in her family right now that's very severe. She's going to be okay. Her husband's going to be okay. but it is no good right now. And so we immediately, because she wanted the flexibility to work and she is working, like that's her choice. I'm not going to get into all of that. I went out and bought her a MacBook Air so that she felt less held to her computer. It doesn't have as much space as mine, but she's very happy with it. And it's half the cost. I will tell you, I do Apple financing. And that's why I tell people, yes, I know I don't get the refurbished, but I do the financing. It's 0% down. It helps with my credit score. That is the longest answer. I'm so sorry, but I'll write you separately and send you a link to what I bought. Can't stress enough. This computer has changed my life. So here's what, oh yeah, perfect answer. You're kind. I'm like, let me give a 10-minute dissertation about my computer, like what people probably didn't ask for. I do operate also. I did invest in my company in an iPad. Oh, you did the MacBook Air. Okay. Okay. Tanisha, did you buy the newest one too? Did you, like, if you don't mind me asking, because that's the one that Megan has and she loves it and it was available in the store. Oh, okay. You know what I'll do, guys? I will put it in the email this week so that you can have it. I will send you both of them. I will send you the MacBook Air one and I will send you the other one. So yeah, thanks for asking. I got to say, having technology that works will always make a difference as a speaker, period, is an investment. I am embarrassed that I went through my last laptop I only had for 18 months. And I know that sounds, oh, she's sitting on a pile of money buying all these laptops. No, I was embarrassed. I had to rebudget. I had to move money from other places, but I knew, oh, you did buy the newest one. And yeah, girl, Apple financing, that is the way to go. I actually, do you know what I do is you get Apple cash back too. And I save all my Apple cash for buying makeup at Ulta, skincare. I'm like, that seems like a frivolous buy. So I'm like, I'm going to buy my new lipstick with my Apple cash. Okay. Let's talk about next week before I lose everybody. And I'm going to say something about B-Sage as well. I think I just saw Brittany and Adriana. I already know you're at B-Sage. Can you guys let me know in the chat if you are at B-Sage? Because I want to say something there too. Okay. Next week, booking yourself as a speaker. The first 4 weeks, y'all, we were blessed with a standard schedule. Next Monday, I am speaking. I'm doing the course on Monday. Hopefully you saw all the emails about it. I am doing it from Sonoma. I know, difficult life. The fact is I am there through Thursday night there. And I made a decision. I said, you guys probably be less likely to be busy on Monday versus Friday. From a personal standpoint, because I'm going to be gone 10 out of 14 days, I would like to take next Friday to be with my family and to, see how they're doing and my cats and all those things. I said, you know what, let's just do it this way. It is the same time as always, but I will be West Coast. I have done the course at hotels before. I've been fine. I also have a hotspot. I will record it. If you can't make it, I appreciate your patience. With that being said, if you're going to be Sage, there's a couple of you here. Okay, so Brittany, you're going to get an email too. I'm sending word out right now, trying to figure out when people are going to, apparently 10% of the attendees are either in the collective or they're a wedding industry speaker or they're in my course. Like I looked at the list and I couldn't believe it. Sunday, because of the course, Sunday is when I can do something. I am going to call the hotel right after this. And I'm going to be hosting like a small lunch for those who can make it. I'm hopefully hosting a happy hour for an hour hosted. Come have a drink, a mocktail, a sparkling water on me on that Sunday. So just let you know. Anyways, you guys have been amazing. Thank you as always. You've put up with all my coughing for several weeks now. I want to thank you. You guys are a huge, huge bright spot in my week every week. Not to get all gushy, but I really like all of you very much. So thank you so much. I will see you on office hours coming up. If you need anything else, let me know. And Kevin, I owe you an email too, but I'm just getting back to the office. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you soon.